The journey back to human space took 5 days. The Eternal Vanguard traveled faster than any ship humanity had ever built, crossing distances that would have taken months in mere hours. Taemin spent most of that time in the captain's position, maintaining his neural connection with the ship and learning its vast capabilities. Every system he explored revealed new wonders. The ship could repair itself. It could adapt its weapons and shields based on threats it encountered. It had medical facilities that could cure diseases humanity had never solved. Its manufacturing bays could produce almost anything from raw materials. The knowledge stored in its databases represented millions of years of accumulated architect wisdom. But with each discovery came greater weight on Taemin's shoulders. This wasn't just a ship. It was a key to the future. In the wrong hands, it could make humanity into tyrants. In the right hands, it could lift them to heights they had never imagined. "You should rest," Dr. Yuna said, appearing beside him on the bridge. "You've barely slept since we left the ruins." "I can't stop thinking about what happens when we arrive home," Taemin admitted. "The government will want to take the ship. The military will want to study it. Everyone will have opinions about what we should do with it. The ship is bonded to you," she reminded him. "They can't take it, but they can try. And if they pressure me enough, if they threaten the people I care about, they might succeed in making me use it the wrong way." Daewon joined them, carrying cups of coffee. "You're worrying about problems that haven't happened yet. Cross that bridge when you come to it." "The bridge is getting closer," Jiwoo called from the pilot station, "dropping out of quantum space in 5 minutes. Human space dead ahead." Taemin stood and took a deep breath. "Open a communication channel to the research station. Director Hana needs to know we're coming back." The channel connected, and Director Hana's face appeared on the display. She looked older than Taemin remembered, more tired. When she saw him, her expression shifted from surprise to anger to something else. "Fear, maybe. Or awe, Taemin," she said slowly. "You're alive." "Yes, Director. We found something in the Ashen Expanse. Something incredible. We tracked your unauthorized departure. We sent search parties. They found nothing. We thought you were dead." She paused, seeing the bridge around him. "What ship is that?" "I don't recognize the design. It's called the Eternal Vanguard. It's an inheritance ship left by an ancient civilization called the Architects. They built it for humanity, Director. For someone who could prove worthy of inheriting their legacy." Hana's eyes widened. "An inheritance ship. Those are myths. Stories told by elder civilizations to maintain their superiority. Not myths. I'm sending you our sensor logs now. Everything we found. Everything we learned." The data transfer began. Taemin watched Hana's expression change as she reviewed the information. She saw the ruins, the trials, the battle with the Guardians, the alliance with the Velthera fleet. When she finished, she looked shaken. "This changes everything," she whispered. "I know. That's why I need your help. When we arrive, there will be pressure to militarize the ship, to use it as a weapon. But that's not what the architects intended. If we go down that path, failsafe systems will destroy it and us. What are you asking me to do? Help me protect it. Help me make sure humanity uses this gift wisely. We have a chance to become something greater. But only if we don't let fear and greed control our choices." Hana was quiet for a long moment. "Come to the station. I'll arrange for a diplomatic reception rather than a military one. But Taemin, you need to understand.
People will be frightened of what you've brought back."
Fear makes people do irrational things. I know, but we have to try." The Eternal Vanguard dropped out of quantum space near the research station. Immediately, every sensor in the system locked onto them. Warning broadcasts demanded identification. Defense platforms powered up weapons. Patrol ships scrambled to intercept. "They're treating us like a threat," Jiwoo said. "Can you blame them?" Daewon replied. "We show up in a ship that doesn't match any known design. Of course they're nervous." Taemin opened a general broadcast channel. "This is Taemin of the research vessel Dawn Seeker. We are returning from the Ashen Expanse with an architect inheritance ship. We come in peace. Director Hana can verify our identity and intentions." Hana's voice came through on a private channel. "I'm vouching for you, but the military command wants you to power down weapons and submit to inspection." "The ship doesn't work that way," Taemin explained. "It's bonded to me. I can choose not to use weapons, but I can't separate myself from the ship's systems. Tell them we'll maintain a non-threatening position and answer any questions they have." It took 3 hours of tense negotiations before the human defense forces allowed the Eternal Vanguard to dock at the research station. Even then, The ship was surrounded by armed vessels maintaining a cautious distance. Taemin and his crew disembarked to find themselves facing a crowd. Scientists, military officers, government officials, and journalists all wanted to see the people who had found an inheritance ship. The attention was overwhelming. Director Hana pushed through the crowd and pulled Taemin aside. "The Council of Worlds wants to meet with you. Every major human colony is sending representatives. They'll be here within 2 days. What do they want? What do you think? They want to know what you found and what you plan to do with it. Some are calling you a hero. Others think you're dangerous. Everyone agrees that your ship could shift the balance of power in the galaxy." Over the next 2 days, Taemin met with countless officials. He showed them recordings of the ruins and explained the trials. He demonstrated the ship's capabilities, careful to show both its power and his control over it. He emphasized the architect's lessons about wisdom and restraint. Some understood. Others didn't want to. General Byung, the head of Colonial Defense Forces, was particularly aggressive. That ship could protect every human colony. We could finally stand as equals with the elder civilizations. Why are you hesitating? Because protection can become aggression, Taemin replied. The architects built failsafes for a reason. If we use the ship for conquest, we'll be destroyed. Then we'll be careful about how we use it, Byung argued. But we can't just park it and do nothing. That's a waste of incredible resources. I'm not suggesting we do nothing. I'm suggesting we use it to lift humanity up, not to push others down. We can share the medical technology. We can use the manufacturing capabilities to help colonies in need. We can explore new worlds and make new discoveries. But we do it as partners with other species, not as conquerors. The Council of Worlds met in a grand chamber with representatives from every human colony. Taemin stood before them and made his case. He explained the tests, the Guardians, the alliance with the Velthara. He showed them what happened to species who misused inheritance ships. The architects gave us a gift, he concluded, but it's also a responsibility. We have to prove we deserve it every single day, not through conquest or domination, but through wisdom and compassion. There were arguments, heated debates that lasted hours. Some representatives wanted military control of the ship. Others wanted it studied and replicated. A few even suggested destroying it because it was too dangerous to exist. But in the end, a majority agreed with Taemin's vision. The inheritance ship would remain under his command. A new organization would be created to oversee its use, with representatives from every colony and strict protocols to prevent misuse. The knowledge it contained would be shared gradually, carefully, ensuring humanity could absorb and understand it without being overwhelmed. It wasn't a perfect solution. There would be more challenges ahead, but it was a start. 3 weeks after returning, Taemin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vanguard with his original crew. Director Hana had approved their positions as the ship's primary team. Other crew members were being carefully selected, people who understood the responsibility they were taking on. First official mission, Jiwoo said, checking the navigation systems. Colony 7 needs medical supplies. Their shipment was delayed, and people are dying. Then that's where we go, Taemin said. The Eternal Vanguard launched from the station, moving gracefully through space. Below on the station, crowds watched it go. Some with hope, some with fear, all with wonder. Taemin felt the ship's presence in his mind, comfortable now after weeks of bonding. Through their connection, he sensed its approval. He was using its power the right way, helping rather than hurting, building rather than destroying. You know, Day One said, when you asked me to join you on that crazy mission, I thought we'd all end up dead. I never imagined this. None of us did, Dr. Yuna agreed. We found something that humanity has been searching for since we first looked at the stars. Purpose, direction, proof that we're capable of being more than what we are. We're also targets now, Jiwoo reminded them. War Commander Kiva said other species would challenge us. Not everyone will be as understanding as the Velthara. Let them come, Taemin said. We'll face every challenge the same way we've faced them so far, with courage, wisdom, and the belief that humanity's best days are ahead of us. The Guardian ships emerged from the ruins like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. There were dozens of them, each one larger than any vessel in the Velthara fleet. They were angular and brutal in design, built for one purpose only: to destroy those who would misuse architect technology. Taemin felt the Eternal Vanguard's alarm through their neural connection. The Guardians were not discriminating targets. They would attack both the Inheritance ship and the Velthara fleet, eliminating any potential threat to the Architect's legacy. New contacts, Jiwoo called out. 30 Guardian ships and counting. They're targeting everyone. War Commander Kiva's voice came through again, but this time there was uncertainty in her tone. What have you done, human? The ruins have a defense system, Taemin replied. Your attack triggered it. The Guardians will destroy anyone near the Inheritance ship who shows hostile intent. A Guardian vessel fired on the nearest Velthara ship. The beam punched through shields that should have been impenetrable, tearing the ship in half. Explosions bloomed in space as escape pods launched frantically. Fall back, Kiva ordered her fleet. Defensive formation, but the Guardians were faster. They moved with mechanical precision, adapting their tactics instantly to counter every defensive maneuver the Velthara attempted. 3 more ships were destroyed in seconds. Taemin watched the slaughter through his connection with the Eternal Vanguard. He could feel the Guardians' cold logic. They saw the Velthara as a threat. They saw the conflict as proof that the Inheritor might be unworthy. They would eliminate everyone to protect the Architect's legacy. We have to help them, Taemin said. Daewon stared at him. They just tried to kill us. You want to save them? If we don't, hundreds of people will die. Maybe thousands. This is the real test. The Architects want to see if we'll choose compassion over revenge. Or maybe they want to see if we're smart enough not to get involved in a fight that isn't ours. Jiwoo said. Dr. Yuna was studying the Guardian patterns on her display. The Guardians are programmed to eliminate threats. If we position ourselves between them and the Velthara, we might be able to protect them. That would put us in the line of fire, Daewon said. I know, Taemin replied, but it's the right thing to do. He reached out through his neural link and commanded the Eternal Vanguard forward. The ship responded instantly, accelerating toward the battle. Taemin could feel its hesitation, its confusion at his choice. The ship had been designed to fight, to dominate. Protecting an enemy was not part of its original programming. But Taemin was its captain now, and his will shaped its purpose. The Eternal Vanguard positioned itself between the Guardians and the Velthara fleet. When the next Guardian barrage came, Taemin raised shields and absorbed the impact. The ship shuddered but held firm. Broadcast to the Velthara fleet, Taemin said. Tell them to hold position behind us. They won't listen, Jiwoo said, but she sent the message anyway. To Taemin's surprise, Kiva responded immediately. Why are you protecting us? Because it's what humans do, Taemin said simply. We protect those who can't protect themselves, even our enemies. There was silence on the other end of the communication. Then Kiva spoke again, her voice different now, less hostile, more curious. This makes no strategic sense. Strategy isn't everything. Sometimes you have to do what's right, even if it costs you. More Guardians converged on their position. The Eternal Vanguard's shields were taking heavy damage. Taemin coordinated with Jiwoo, using the ship's superior speed to dodge some attacks while absorbing others. Daewon worked frantically at the engineering console. We can't take this kind of punishment forever. The shields are strong but not invincible. I need to disable the Guardians without destroying them, Taemin said. If we kill them, we'll fail the test. Dr. Yuna was analyzing the Guardian broadcast patterns. They're communicating with each other through a quantum network. If we could disrupt that network, it might confuse them long enough to de-escalate. Can we do that without causing permanent damage? Taemin asked. Maybe. I need access to the ship's communication systems. Taemin granted her access through his neural link. Dr. Yuna's fingers flew across holographic controls, working to decode the Guardian communication protocols. Meanwhile, Taemin continued maneuvering the Eternal Vanguard, keeping it between the Guardians and the Velthara fleet. A Velthara ship moved up alongside them. Then another. More of Kiva's fleet was joining the defensive formation, adding their shields to protect the collective group. What are they doing? Jiwoo asked. They're helping us, Taemin said, surprised. Kiva's voice came through again. If we're going to survive, we fight together. Our sensors show the Guardian communication network. We can help jam their signals. Coordinate with Dr. Yuna, Taemin said. But remember, we're not trying to destroy them. Just disable them temporarily. For the next hour, humans and Velthara worked side by side. Daewon taught Velthara engineers how to recalibrate their shields against architect weapons. Dr. Yuna worked with Velthara communication specialists to disrupt the Guardian network. Jiwoo coordinated tactical movements with Velthara pilots, creating a defensive formation that protected everyone. Tai-Min felt the shift happening. The battle was forging something unexpected: respect, understanding. The Velthara had always viewed humans as inferior, primitive, but watching Tai-Min risk his ship to protect them, seeing humans work alongside them as equals, was changing their perspective. "I've got it," Dr. Yuna announced. Broadcasting disruption pattern now. The Guardian communication network flickered and failed. The automated ships suddenly lost coordination, their precise movements becoming erratic and uncertain. They stopped firing and began moving away from the battle zone, retreating to the ruins to recalibrate. The Eternal Vanguard sensors showed the Guardians powering down their weapons. The immediate threat was over. Tai-Min slumped in the captain's position, exhausted from maintaining the neural connection under combat stress. His team gathered around him, checking to make sure he was okay. "That was insane," Jiwoo said, but she was grinning. "We just fought alongside the Velthara Dominion, and survived," Day-One added. "Barely." Kiva's holographic image appeared on the bridge again. She studied Tai-Min for a long moment before speaking. "You protected my people. You risked your ship and your crew for enemies who had just attacked you." "You're not our enemies," Tai-Min said. "You're just people who didn't understand what this ship represents." "And what does it represent?" "Hope, not for conquest or domination. Hope that species can rise above their worst impulses. The architects left these ships as tests. They wanted to find inheritors who would use power wisely, who would choose cooperation over conflict." Kiva was quiet for a moment. "I have commanded fleets for 200 years. I have conquered worlds and subjugated species. I thought I understood power, but you have shown me something I did not expect. Strength can be gentle. Victory can look like mercy. What happens now?" Day-One asked. "Now I must report to the Dominion Council," Kiva said. "I will tell them that humanity has claimed an inheritance ship. I will also tell them that humanity has earned the right to keep it, not because you defeated us in battle, but because you showed us compassion when you could have chosen destruction." "Thank you," Tai-Min said. "Do not thank me yet," Kiva replied. "There will be others who challenge you. Not all species will be as understanding as the Velthara. You have claimed power that will make you a target. We'll face those challenges when they come," Tai-Min said. Together, Kiva's image flickered. Before she disconnected, she said something that surprised everyone. "When you return to human space, tell your leaders that the Velthara Dominion offers friendship. It has been many centuries since we respected another species enough to call them equals. You have earned that respect today." The Velthara fleet powered down their weapons and began moving away from the ruins. Tai-Min watched them go, feeling the weight of what had just happened. They had passed another test. Not through violence or domination, but through the choice to protect life, even at great personal risk. "The Guardians are retreating into the ruins," Dr. Yuna reported. "They're going back into standby mode." "And us?" Jiwoo asked. "What do we do now?" Tai-Min looked around at his crew. Day-One, who had risked everything on a hunch. Jiwoo, who had flown them through impossible situations. Dr. Yuna, whose knowledge had saved them more than once. They were his team, his friends, the first crew of humanity's inheritance ship. "Now we go home," Tai-Min said. "We have a ship to show the world, and a future to build." The Eternal Vanguard turned away from the ruins and accelerated into open space. Behind them, the ancient structure began powering down again, its purpose fulfilled. An inheritor had been found. The test had been passed, but Tai-Min knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge would be convincing humanity to use this incredible gift wisely, to not repeat the mistakes of countless species who had claimed power only to be destroyed by it. Through his neural link, he felt the ship's confidence in him. The Eternal Vanguard believed he was worthy. Now he had to prove that humanity was worthy too. Tai-Min stared at the holographic display in his cramped office, his eyes burning from hours of work. The numbers didn't lie. There was something out there in the ashen expanse, and nobody wanted to listen to him. He was 32 years old and had spent the last decade studying dead civilizations. While his colleagues explored new worlds and made groundbreaking discoveries, he sat in this tiny room cataloging old artifacts that nobody cared about. His supervisor said he lacked vision. His peers called him obsessive. But Tai-Min knew he was right about this. The coordinates had appeared 3 weeks ago while he was analyzing old survey data. At first, it looked like nothing, just background radiation in a sector that every galactic civilization marked as forbidden territory. But when he ran the signal through different filters, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The pattern matched human DNA encoding. Not similar, identical. Taemin stood up and grabbed his jacket. He had tried the official channels. He had written reports, sent messages, and even requested a meeting with Director Hana. She had dismissed him in less than 5 minutes, telling him that humanity couldn't afford to anger the elder races by poking around forbidden space. She said he was seeing patterns that weren't there, that he needed to focus on his assigned work. But Taemin couldn't let it go. Something was calling to him from the ashen expanse. He made his way through the corridors of the research station, nodding to colleagues who barely noticed him. Everyone was busy with their own projects, their own discoveries. Nobody paid attention to the quiet xenoarchaeologist who spent too much time alone. The docking bay was nearly empty at this hour. Taemin walked toward the small research vessel he had signed out for equipment maintenance. The Dawnseeker wasn't much to look at, but it had a functional quantum drive and enough supplies for a month-long journey. "You're really doing this?" a gruff voice said from behind him. Taemin turned to see Daewon leaning against a cargo container, his arms crossed. The older man was in his 50s with gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen too much combat. He had served in the Colonial Defense Forces before retiring to work as an engineer on the station. "I don't have a choice," Taemin said. "Nobody will listen." "Because you're asking them to approve a suicide mission," Daewon replied. "The Ashen Expanse is forbidden for a reason. Every civilization with a fleet says the same thing. Stay away." "Then why are you here?" Daewon sighed and pushed off from the container. "Because I owe you, and because I'm curious. If you're right, this could change everything for humanity." "I need a pilot," Taemin said. "Someone good. Already handled," Daewon said. Jiwoo agreed to come. Kid's reckless but talented. As if on cue, a young woman with short hair and a confident stride walked up to them. Jiwoo was barely 25, but she had logged more flight hours than pilots twice her age. She had been reprimanded multiple times for unauthorized maneuvers and pushing her ships beyond safety limits. "So this is the famous Forbidden Zone expedition," Jiwoo said with a grin. "I'm in." "We could die out there," Taemin warned. "We could die crossing the street," Jiwoo shot back. "At least this will be interesting." "There's one more person we need," Taemin said. "Dr. Yuna." Daewon raised an eyebrow. "The xenolinguist?" "She's one of the best researchers on the station." "Why would she risk her career for this?" "Because she believes in discovery," Taemin said. "And because she's the only person who might be able to communicate with whatever we find out there." It took another hour to convince Dr. Yuna. She was a cautious woman in her 40s, methodical and precise in everything she did. But when Taemin showed her the signal pattern and his analysis, something changed in her expression. She saw what he saw. The possibility that humanity might not be alone in ways they had never imagined. "If you're wrong, we'll all lose our positions," she said quietly. "If I'm right, none of that will matter," Taemin replied. They loaded supplies onto the Dawnseeker in the middle of the night cycle when the station's monitoring systems were at their lowest activity. Taemin had filed the vessel's flight plan as a routine equipment test in an adjacent sector. By the time anyone realized they had gone off course, they would be too far away to recall. The ship's interior was cramped with 4 people aboard. Jiwoo took the pilot's seat and began running through the pre-flight checklist. Daewon secured their supplies and checked the ship's systems. Dr. Yuna set up her translation equipment in the small research alcove. Taemin stood at the navigation console, entering the coordinates he had memorized weeks ago. "Last chance to back out," Jiwoo said as she powered up the engines. Nobody spoke. "All right then," she said with a smile. "Let's see what's in the Ashen Expanse." The Dawnseeker detached from the station and glided away into open space. Within minutes, they had cleared the traffic lanes and were accelerating toward the edge of the system. Jiwoo engaged the quantum drive, and reality twisted around them as they entered faster-than-light travel. The journey took 3 days. They traveled through empty systems and avoided major shipping routes. Taemin spent the time reviewing everything he knew about the Ashen Expanse. The sector had been abandoned for millions of years. Ancient warnings in dozens of dead languages all said variations of the same thing. The sleeper must not wake. Do not enter. Death waits here. But there were also hints of something else in the old texts. Whispers of a great test, references to inheritors and chosen ones, fragments of myths about ancient beings who seeded the galaxy with potential. On the third day, they dropped out of quantum space at the coordinates. The view outside the ship made everyone fall silent. A massive structure hung in space around a dead star. It was impossibly large, easily the size of a small moon. Its architecture was unlike anything in the galactic database. Organic curves flowed into crystalline geometries, surfaces that looked like metal twisted into patterns that resembled living tissue. The structure was dark, but as the Dawn Seeker approached, lights began flickering on in sequence. Section by section, the ancient installation woke up. It was as if the ruins had been waiting for them. "Taemin," Dr. Yuna said, her voice shaking. "We're receiving a signal. It's directed specifically at our ship." "What does it say?" he asked. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Welcome home, inheritor." The ruins were calling to him. Taemin realized with absolute certainty that he had been right. This place had been waiting. Not for humanity, for him. The Coalition blockade fleet was the largest military force assembled in a century. 300 warships from a dozen different species, all positioned between Hana and the Corona Nebula, between her and the third Titan. "They're not even trying to hide," Jiwan said, studying the sensor readings. "They want us to see how many ships they have." Hana sat in Yongdam's command throne, feeling two minds connected to hers now. Yongdam's ancient wisdom and Baiko's fierce energy. Minho was in his own ship, learning to control Baiko's systems. He was getting better, but he was still scared much of the time. "We can't fight that many ships," Soman said. "Even with 2 Titans." "We don't have to beat them," Hana said. "We just have to get past them." She had received one more message from Counselor Myung before they left. The third Titan, Chunwang the Sky King, was hidden in the Corona Nebula. But there was something else. Something Myung's voice had been afraid to say directly. "Be careful, Hana. The third keybearer is not what you expect." Now, facing impossible odds, Hana understood what had to be done. "Yongdam Baiko, can you create a resonance field strong enough to protect us while we run?" "For a time," Yongdam said. "But it will drain our power severely. If we have to fight after reaching the nebula, we will be weak." "Then we'll be weak," Hana said. "We don't have another choice." They charged toward the blockade. The Coalition fleet opened fire immediately. Hundreds of weapons lit up the darkness. But when the energy beams hit the resonance field between the 2 Titans, they scattered like rain. Ships tried to block their path. Baiko destroyed them with precise shots. Yongdam's shields protected them both. They moved like dancers, 2 dragons working as one. The Coalition forces tried everything. Missiles, boarding torpedoes, electromagnetic pulses. Nothing worked. The Titans were too powerful, too coordinated. But Hana felt something wrong. The Coalition was not fighting as hard as they should. Ships kept pulling back, creating a corridor. They were being guided, pushed toward the nebula. "It's a trap," she said aloud. "I know," Yongdam replied grimly. "But we must go anyway." They broke through the blockade and entered the Corona Nebula. Inside, sensors became useless. Radiation from dying stars scrambled everything. They flew blind, following coordinates from Myung's message. And then they saw it. Chunwang, the Sky King. The Titan was massive, even larger than Yongdam. Built like a flying fortress covered in weapons platforms, it hung in space among the nebula's colorful gases like a sleeping god. But it was not sleeping. Its lights were on. Its systems were active. "Someone is already bonded with it," Baiko said in surprise. A communication came through, a woman's voice, older and tired. "Hello, Hana Kim, I've been waiting for you. My name is Yunji Kang, I am the keybearer of Chunwang, and I'm afraid I cannot let you leave here." Yunji's face appeared on the screen. She was in her 50s with gray hair and sad eyes. "I know what you're thinking. You believe that awakening all the Titans will make humanity strong again, that we can stand up to the Coalition and fight the silence if it returns." "That's right," Hana said. "Why are you trying to stop us?" "Because I've been bonded with Chunwang for 20 years, Yunji said. "I know the truth. The silence is not gone. It's just waiting. And the Titans are what attract it. Every Titan that wakes up is a beacon calling to the darkness. If all 15 awaken, the silence will return in force. It will consume everything." Hana felt cold. "You've been hiding, Chunwang? Working against your own species?" "I've been protecting humanity," Yunji said firmly. Sometimes protection means accepting weakness. Better to be weak and alive than strong and extinct. That's not protection, Hana said angrily. That's cowardice. You're keeping humanity in chains because you're afraid. I'm afraid because I've seen what the silence can do. Yunji shot back. I have Chunwang's memories. I know what happened to the old key-bearers. They died, all of them, sacrificed themselves to buy humanity a few more centuries. And you want to throw that away? Minho's voice came over the communication. So we should just stay weak forever? Let the coalition control us? Never reach our potential? Yes, Yunji said simply. Because the alternative is extinction. Chunwang's weapons powered up. The massive titan moved with surprising grace, positioning itself between them and the exit from the nebula. I'm sorry, Yunji said, but I can't let you wake the other titans. Surrender now and I'll make sure you're treated well. Keep fighting and I'll destroy you. Hana looked at her crew. Jiwan was scared but determined. Salman was calculating odds. Minho looked to her for guidance. And in her mind she felt Yongdam and Beiko ready to fight despite the odds. No, Hana said. We won't surrender. Humanity deserves to be free, even if it's dangerous, even if it's scary. Freedom is worth the risk. The battle began. Chunwang was more powerful than both titans combined. Its weapons covered every angle. Yunji had been training with the Sky King for 2 decades. She knew every trick, every tactic. Yongdam and Beiko fought together, but they were already exhausted from breaking through the blockade. Their shields flickered. Their weapons took too long to recharge. We cannot win this fight, Beiko said. Hana knew he was right, but she refused to give up. Then we changed the fight. She opened a communication to Yunji on all frequencies, made sure the blockade fleet outside could hear. You're right about the silence. It will come back, but hiding from it won't save us. The old key-bearers understood that. They didn't run. They fought. They led the Titans into the dark and made themselves targets to protect everyone else. And they died, Yunji shouted. But they died free, Hana said. They died choosing to protect others, not cowering in fear. As she spoke, something happened. The resonance field between the 3 Titans began to fluctuate. The space around them started to shimmer and twist. Yongdam's voice was urgent. Hana, stop. You're creating a dimensional fracture. If it grows larger, too late. Reality tore open, the silence came through, it started small. Just shadows in the nebula that moved wrong. Ships in the blockade began sending distress signals. Crews reported seeing things that could not exist. People disappeared from their stations without a trace. Then the ships themselves began to vanish. Not destroyed, just gone. Erased from existence. No, Yunji whispered in horror. What have you done? But Hana was transfixed. She could see it now. Really see it. The silence was not just darkness. It was the absence of everything. Matter, energy, thought itself, and it was hungry. The Titan's weapons could not hurt it. Energy beams passed through the shadows without effect. Missiles vanished before they could detonate. We need to leave, Soman said desperately. Now, but there was no escape. The silence was spreading, feeding on the ships in the blockade. Growing stronger with each vessel it consumed, Minho was crying. I don't want to die. Hana felt Yongdam's memories flooding through her, showing her what the old key-bearers had done, how they had stopped the silence before. We need to combine, she said, all 3 Titans. Create a full resonance network. That's never been done with 3 key-bearers, Yongdam warned. The strain could kill you all. If we don't try, we all die anyway, Hana said. She looked at Yunji on the screen. At the older woman's terrified face. You were wrong about one thing. The Titans don't attract the silence. They're designed to fight it. That's why we were made. You, me, Minho. We're the ones who stand between humanity and the dark. Yunji was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right. Let's do it. Let's show this thing why it should have stayed in the void. The 3 key-bearers opened their minds completely, dropped all barriers. Their consciousnesses merged with their Titans, and the Titans merged with each other. The pain was indescribable. Hana felt like her mind was being stretched across light years. She was herself but also Yunji and Minho. She was human but also Yongdam, Beiko, and Chunwang. 3 people and 3 warships becoming something new. The Titan Network. When their eyes opened, they glowed with 3 colors. Blue, white, and gold. And when they spoke, their voices harmonized. We are the shield, they said together. We are the light in the darkness. We are humanity's will made manifest. The network's weapons were unlike anything that existed. They did not fire energy or matter. They fired reality itself, beams of pure existence that could not be denied. The silence recoiled. For the first time in 3,000 years, it felt pain. The battle lasted 7 hours. The Titan network fought the silence across dimensions that human minds could not normally perceive. They pushed it back, burned it, erased pieces of it from existence. Ships from the blockade that could still fight joined in. Human, Vrex, Kresh, and others. They had seen the silence consume their comrades. Old grudges meant nothing when facing extinction. Finally, the silence retreated, pulled back through the dimensional tear and sealed it behind itself. Gone. For now. The Titan network separated. 3 keybearers gasping, their minds their own again, changed forever by what they had experienced. The blockade fleet did not attack. They drifted in space, trying to process what they had seen. A transmission came from the Coalition Council. Their voices were shaken. The Treaty of Centauri is dissolved. Humanity's restrictions are lifted. You have proven your worth, but Hana knew the truth. They had not proven worth. They had proven necessity. The Titans were the only defense against the silence, and the silence would return. The interior of the Eternal Vanguard was overwhelming. Corridors stretched in impossible directions, curving in ways that hurt the eye. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft light that responded to their presence. Every surface was smooth and warm to the touch, as if the ship itself was a living thing. Taemin walked through the main corridor with his team following behind. His connection to the ship grew stronger with each step. He could feel its systems waking up, recognizing him as its captain. Information flooded his mind, too much and too fast. He stumbled and caught himself against the wall. "You okay?" Jiwoo asked, grabbing his arm to steady him. "It's talking to me," Taemin said, not with words. "With feelings and images. The ship wants to bond with me." Dr. Yuna was scanning everything with her equipment. "The technology here is beyond anything in our databases. This makes our most advanced ships look like primitive toys." They found what appeared to be the bridge, though it was unlike any ship command center they had seen before. Instead of seats and consoles, there was a central platform surrounded by holographic displays. The room was circular, with walls that showed views of space in every direction. Taemin stepped onto the central platform. The moment he did, neural interfaces extended from the floor and ceiling, moving toward him like curious serpents made of light and metal. "Taemin." "Wait," Daewon said, his hand moving toward his weapon. "It's okay," Taemin said, though his heart was pounding. This is what the ship needs. A neural connection with its captain. The interfaces touched his temples and the base of his skull. There was no pain, just a sudden rush of sensation. Taemin gasped as his consciousness expanded, merging with the ship's systems. He could feel the Eternal Vanguard's power, its vast knowledge, its purpose. Visions filled his mind. He saw the architects in their final days. A dying civilization that had reached the peak of technological achievement, but found themselves alone in an empty universe. They had tried to create successors, seeding promising worlds with life, hoping that one day, worthy species would rise to inherit their legacy. He saw Earth 4 billion years ago, as architect ships deposited the chemical building blocks of life into the primordial oceans. He watched humanity evolve, observed by automated systems that reported back across the void of space. He felt the architects' hope and their fear. Hope that humanity would be different. Fear that humans would repeat the same mistakes that had led to so much destruction in the galaxy's history. The visions faded, and Taemin found himself back on the bridge, breathing hard. The neural interfaces withdrew, but the connection remained. He could still feel the ship like a second heartbeat in his mind. "What did you see?" Dr. Yuna asked. "Everything," Taemin said quietly. "The architects created inheritance ships for dozens of species. Most were never claimed. Some species destroyed themselves before they could reach the stars. Others found their ships but used them for conquest and were destroyed by fail-safe mechanisms." "Fail-safes," Daewon said. "What kind of fail-safes?" "The architects didn't want their technology to be used for evil. If an inheritor proves unworthy after claiming their ship, the ship will self-destruct. And if the inheritor tries to use the ship for conquest or genocide, automated guardian fleets will hunt them down and destroy them." Jiwoo was exploring the bridge, touching different surfaces and watching them respond. "So this ship is a test that never ends." We have to keep proving we're worthy. Not we, Taman said. Me, the ship is bonded to me specifically. It won't respond to anyone else. If I die, it dies. The weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders like a physical burden. He was holding power that could reshape the galaxy. But if he misused that power, everything would be destroyed. Dr. Yuna had moved to one of the holographic displays. I'm seeing records of other inheritance ships. There were 47 total. Only 12 were ever claimed. Of those, only 3 inheritors passed all the tests. The rest were eliminated by the failsafes. What happened to the 3 who succeeded? Taman asked. Their species ascended. They became guardian civilizations, protecting younger races and maintaining peace in their regions of space. They're still out there, though they rarely interact with the rest of the galaxy anymore. Daewon was examining the ship's weapon systems through another display. These weapons could destroy planets. The shields could withstand a star-going supernova. The engines make our quantum drives look like toys. This isn't just advanced technology. This is godlike power. That's why it's so dangerous, Taman said. Power like this corrupts. The architects knew that. They designed the inheritance ships to test not just whether a species could claim power, but whether they should. A warning alert suddenly flashed across all the displays. The Eternal Vanguard's sensors had detected multiple ships dropping out of quantum space outside the ruins. We have company, Jiwoo said, pulling up the tactical display. Big company. I'm counting 20 ships, maybe more. The ships were Velthara Dominion vessels, sleek and deadly. The Velthara were one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They had ruled vast territories for thousands of years and viewed newer species like humanity as inferior. A communication request came through. Taman accepted it, and a holographic image of a Velthara commander appeared on the bridge. She was tall and angular, with crystalline skin that refracted light in rainbow patterns. Her eyes were cold and calculating. I am War Commander Kiva of the Velthara Dominion, she said. You have violated the Forbidden Zone and claimed architect technology. Surrender the ship immediately or you will be destroyed. This ship was left for humanity, Taman said, trying to keep his voice steady. We passed the trials. We have the right to claim it. Kiva's expression didn't change. Rights are determined by power, human. The Velthara have searched for inheritance ships for centuries. We will not allow a primitive species to possess such technology. You don't understand, Dr. Yuna interjected. The inheritance ships can't be stolen. They're bonded to specific individuals. If you kill Taimin, the ship will self-destruct. Then we will study the wreckage, Kiva replied coldly. We have learned much from destroyed inheritance ships. It is better than allowing humans to possess it. The communication cut off. The Velthara fleet began moving into attack formation, their weapons charging. What do we do? Jiwoo asked, her hands hovering over the controls. Taman could feel the Eternal Vanguard's combat systems coming online. The ship was eager to fight, its weapons capable of destroying the entire Velthara fleet in minutes. He could feel that power calling to him, promising easy victory. But he also remembered the visions. The species who had used their inheritance ships for conquest and paid the ultimate price. The architects were testing him right now in this moment. Would he choose violence? Would he use overwhelming force just because he could? We can't fight them, Taman said. They're going to kill us, Daewon said. I know. But if we destroy them, we'll prove that humanity doesn't deserve this ship. The architects are watching. This is part of the test, so what do we do? Jiwoo asked. Taman closed his eyes and reached out to the ship with his mind. There had to be another way. The architects wouldn't create an impossible situation. They wanted their inheritors to succeed, but only if they made the right choices. An idea came to him, flowing from the ship's vast database of knowledge. We run, but we defend without destroying. We show mercy. Mercy to someone trying to kill us? Daewon said. Mercy is what separates us from tyrants, Taman replied. It's what makes us worthy. The Velthara fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Eternal Vanguard. Taman felt the ship respond to his commands, moving with impossible grace. The shields activated, absorbing the impacts easily. Through his neural link, Taman could feel every system, every weapon, every capability. The ship was an extension of his will. He could destroy the Velthara fleet with a thought. Instead, he chose differently. Jiwoo, get us out of the hangar, he said. We're leaving. The Eternal Vanguard lifted off from the ancient platform and accelerated toward open space. The Velthara ships pursued, firing continuously. Taman disabled their weapons with precise shots, careful not to destroy any ships. He targeted their engines, slowing them down without killing anyone. "They're regrouping," Jiwoo said. "More ships are coming." Kiva's voice came through again. "You're running like cowards. Is this the great humanity? Too weak to fight?" Taman opened a channel. "We're strong enough to choose not to fight. That's the difference between us." He could feel War Commander Kiva's frustration and confusion through the communication link. She had expected aggression. She had expected humans to behave like every other species that had ever claimed power. The fact that he was showing restraint was something she didn't understand, but there wasn't time to explain. More Velthara ships were arriving, and beyond them, Taman's sensors detected something else. Something far more dangerous. Automated defense systems. Ancient guardians left by the architects. They were waking up, responding to the conflict around the inheritance ship. The real test was about to begin.